going on, guys? Jaws87 here, and today I'm going to talk about Xbox's FPS boost mode and why this may have bigger implications for the gaming industry than what is shown on the surface. So Xbox this past week has FPS boosted 74 games, and now it's up to 97, and some of them are Far Cry 5, Assassin's Creed Unity, Dying Light. All those games are going from 30 to 60 FPS. A few other highlights are Titanfall 2, Battlefield 5. A couple other indie games are going from 60 to 120, like My Friend Pager, Untitled Goose Game. All these games are taking advantage of the power of the Xbox Series X, and some of them, you have to look at the list, are taking the advantage of the Xbox Series S. If you want the full list of games, I'll have a link to the article listing these games in the description below. So Jason Ronald, the Director of Program Management over at Xbox, and his backwards compatibility team have been working really hard since 2015. They started off with getting Xbox 360 games running on the Xbox One back in, like I said, 2015, and they added OG Xbox games to the list, and not only that, they did some upgrades for games like Red Dead Redemption. The original Red Dead Redemption runs at 4K on your Xbox One X or Series X. And you also have games that have unlocked frame rates, like GTA 4 now runs at 60 frames per second. So there's a lot of amazing things that are going on with Xbox backwards compatibility. So I want to make a few points here. Why does this matter? Well, one is frames per second, they matter. The reason some people pay thousands of dollars for a top of the line powerful PC is so they can get frame rates, 144 frame rates for games, because it feels better to play a game at a high frame rate. I feel smoother, the combat, everything's fluid. In an ideal world, we would all play games at, like 200 frames per second. And I think that kind of thinking is moving more into the console space as we realize 30 frames per second is adequate for some games, especially like turn-based RPGs and slower paced games. But when it comes to like first-person shooters or action arcade type games, the higher the frame rates, the better the game's going to feel. It's going to stick out more. Or even a game like Demon's Souls that came out the PS5. I switched it from the kind of the graphical fidelity mode to the performance mode, and it was just a world of difference playing that game at 60 frames versus 30. I was able to kind of defeat a few bosses more efficiently just because of a higher frame rate. So the great thing about that is FPS matters, but what Xbox is doing here is they're doing all these updates for free, so you don't have to pay a dime. It's almost like getting a next-gen upgrade for free for 97 games, which is truly amazing because you have studios that are charging for next-gen upgrades. You had the new Yakuza game, or the Yakuza spin-off Judgment that just got a next-gen upgrade. It's $40. The Control Ultimate Edition, PS4 to PS5 or Xbox One to Xbox Series X upgrade was $40. To be fair, the FPS boost upgrades are not a full next-gen upgrade like Control or Judgment, where you're getting better textures and ray tracing enabled, at least on the Control Edition. These are kind of not full next-gen upgrades, but they are kind of a partial upgrade for free, and there's 97 of them there, which is just truly amazing. Another point is Xbox is separating itself from Sony and Nintendo. They're the best place to play third-party games. When I'm going to be buying, Far Cry 6 or Dying Light 2, in the back of my mind, I'm gravitating toward Xbox because I feel like in the future, they may, 5 years from now, boost this game up to 120 frames. Versus Sony, I don't have the confidence that they're going to do anything with it. And Xbox is just taking such care of their older games that I think they deserve. They're going to probably get more sales, especially from those of us that care about these things, care about higher frame rates, care about higher resolutions, care about preserving the past. And Xbox is also pushing, I think, Sony and Nintendo to make some moves. So basically, you see Sony, they've been boosting their frame rates with some of their exclusive games. You have God of War now runs at 60 frames, Ratchet and Clank does, Days Gone, Ghost of Tsushima. All these games are been pushed from 30 to 60 frames per second. So they're taking care of their exclusive games, but they only have 11 games that have been boosted from kind of the 30 to 60 or 60 to 120 versus 97 on Xbox. So my hope is this really pushes Sony and Nintendo to take a hard look at what they're doing with their backwards compatibility and also bringing older games into the next gen or current gen running optimally versus keeping them in the past. Let's just take an example here. Nintendo is re-releasing Skyward Sword, a 2011 game for the Nintendo Switch for $60 versus someone like Xbox who, if you have Halo Master Chief Collection, it's just going to go with you forever versus, okay, if I buy Skyward Sword now and the cartridge, is it going to work with the next Switch? All my Wii U games were stranded there. I've bought a ton of virtual console games on the Wii U because I'm a sucker for Nintendo nostalgia, and they're all stuck there. That would never happen with Xbox. Now, I know forever I'm going to be my library is going to go with me to the next Xbox if there is an Xbox Series X2 or whatever the next 7 years bring for the next gen. We can't say the same with Nintendo. And then Sony, at the very least, we can play their PS4 games on our PS5, which is the bare minimum they needed to do. And they did at least give us that. But our PS3 games, Resistance games, you got games like Infamous 1 and 2. They're stranded on my PS3. I still have my PS3 in my entertainment center because I sometimes like to play some PS3 games that I cannot play on my PS4 or 5. And I don't count PS Now. I just do not want to stream my games. I want to play them natively downloaded on my system. So kudos to Xbox. What they're doing is amazing. They deserve praise. Now, as far as them releasing exclusive games and being the place to go for the best exclusives, they still got some work to do. But as far as quality of life and caring about past games, not only letting us play past games on the latest hardware, but just giving us free FPS boost, it just needs to be applauded. And I think as someone who gravitates more toward PlayStation and Nintendo, I have to give my applause to Xbox for what they're doing here with this FPS boost mode and also just backwards compatibility in general. Please keep it up, Microsoft. We love this, especially us gamers that like to go back in the past. So with all that being said, I'd like to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about FPS boost and Xbox's backwards compatibility and the implications for the gaming industry? Do you think this is a big deal? Is this something that pushes you towards Xbox more than PlayStation or Nintendo, or is this something you're just looking forward to new games? You don't really want to go back and play a lot of these older games that you've already beaten or got all the trophies or achievements for? Let me know in the comments. And if you like what I'm trying to do here, I post about 2 to 3 videos a week about upcoming and new games and news in the gaming space. If you're interested, please subscribe. And until next time, this has been Jaws87. Take care.